Greetings and salutations. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm senior editor of IGN. I'm here with the illustrious Ryan McCaffrey, the executive editor of IGN.com.
Good afternoon, my friend.
Ryan, thank you for joining me.
Glad
We're
to be
here to talk a little bit about PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, specifically kind of the new developments that have been going on with both consoles. And you can speak to Xbox One, having covered Microsoft's, the Microsoft beat, I guess, for over a decade, right?
You bet.
So let's talk a little bit about Xbox One. The console was announced as a successor to Xbox 360 in May. We saw a little bit of it at E3, and then some changes have happened. So where do we sit right now with Xbox One? What's changed?
So now we essentially have Xbox 360, the sequel, for better and for worse. So we have, originally they of course wanted to roll this out as an always online console, needed to have at least a 24-hour, once a day check-in online. Every game would be connected online. There'd be no piracy. There'd be no used games trading. It would be their idea was the Steam of the future, like the popular PC download service. They didn't really communicate that very well, or people didn't take to it well anyway, and so they very surprisingly and boldly rolled it back and said, "All right, it's not you don't have to connect online anymore. It can just be offline, online, whatever you want it to be, just like your Xbox 360." And so we have essentially a system that's very, very similar to what Sony has announced with the PlayStation 4, except with the one wild card exception of Connect. This new generation Connect 2.0 that Microsoft is trying to position as the potential difference maker between the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Yeah, and unlike the PlayStation 4 with the new PlayStation 4i, which was kind of shown off and then actually removed from the basic SKU, that's going to cost $400. Connect is always on, and you have to kind of use it, right, with the Xbox One.
Well, you don't have to use it, but it is required to be connected at all times. Yeah, so it's they want you to use it. They're putting it in every box with the idea that developers can count on it being there and potentially do really awesome things with it, which, it's a device that has a lot of hypothetically cool things that we just never saw with the original version because it just was too low res, the lag was too bad. But so far, trying it out in tech demo form, we haven't tried it in real world circumstances yet, but Connect 2 is, from what I can tell, what Connect 1 should have been, and it could be really neat. I still don't know about games, but for interface and navigation, for non-games things, it actually seems like it's going to be great.
Cool. Well, PlayStation 4, of course, was announced a little bit earlier than Xbox One. I was in New York City for the reveal in February, right? And Greg Miller and I have been covering PlayStation for a long time on IGN. We're used to blunders. Isn't that right, Greg? You're off camera. Greg knows.
Yeah.
We're used to kind of blunders and kind of mistakes. Of course, that strong E3 press conference in 2012 was ruined by Wonderbook and kind of things like that. But
something has happened to Sony.
Something's changed.
Something good.
Sony's starting to learn, and when PlayStation 4 was revealed in February, we learned a great deal about some of the exclusives that are coming out, which I think are really exciting about PlayStation 4. But we learned a little bit more about it at E3 in terms of its pricing specifically, which is $400, which makes it only $50 more than the Wii U and $100 less than the Xbox One. And we know only about this basic SKU right now. But what's really cool about PlayStation 4 right now is that it seems to be taking a very pro-consumer, very friendly stance, which is easy for a corporation to do on the periphery and might actually hurt them in the wallet.
Specifically, a very pro-gamer stance. Microsoft with the May 21st thing, with the TV and your games will be there, but Microsoft really seemed to target they cast a wide net to start with, and then at E3 tried to reel in that net. Like, no, actually, hardcore gamers get in the net. Whereas Sony, I think to their credit, from moment one in February, has really locked in and honed in on the hardcore gamers, and as a result, they have the hardcore gamers' attention, and Microsoft has had some just mixed messaging issues.
I agree. And speaking of these games and the gamers, let's speak about a few of the exclusives that are going to be on each console. I think the big trio that people are looking forward to on PlayStation 4 is the launch title Killzone Shadowfall. That's from Guerrilla Games.
Yep.
They're known for the Killzone series. That's basically Sony's stock shooter. Infamous Second Son is not a launch game. That's probably going to come out in Q1 of 2014. That game looks really promising. That's from Sucker Punch, the guys that gave us Sly Cooper back in the day. And I would say really one of the wild cards is Knack, which is a Studio Japan game by Mark Cerny, who's the guy that gave us Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and Ratchet & Clank, a guy who makes mascot platformers and is also the architect behind the PlayStation 4.
I'm surprised you didn't say Drive Club, because that's actually what I'm really psyched for, because it reminds me a lot of Project Gotham Racing, an old Xbox franchise that's really near and dear to my heart. That's a launch title for PS4.
It
as
is.
well.
It is. I just don't really play racing games, so I don't want to speak to it disingenuously to the listeners out there. And of course, on Xbox, I actually think Xbox One has a more interesting stable of exclusives right now. I think Rise maybe didn't run the best, but actually it looks really cool.
Yeah, well, that one's sort of just teetering on the edge. It could go either way. There's a lot of sort of, are you really playing the game or are you watching it? We have to play more. It remains to be seen. But Forza Motorsport 5 looks fantastic. They're doing a lot of interesting things with that in addition to just pretty graphics. Dead Rising 3 is looking better and better every time
I
you
agree.
see it.
I think that game looks great.
Billions of zombies on the screen, but it still has that series' just signature, really goofy humor. You can wear a banana hammock. Careful Googling that, by the way, just in case. And then there are a few other things. I mean, Titanfall is out a little later. That's the big one that blew everyone away at E3. That's from the co-creator of Call of Duty at his new studio. It is saying it's Call of Duty with mechs is really doing it a disservice. You look it up on IGN, look up the videos. It's insane looking. But yeah, there's a really strong software lineup for Xbox One thus far.
I agree. So both of these consoles come out later in 2013. We know Xbox One's coming out in November. We just don't have a specific date.
Correct.
And it's going to cost $500, and there's only one SKU that we know about right now?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, and PlayStation 4 comes out this fall. We don't specifically know when. I would bet that it's also going to come out in November. I think it's going to be a very Xbox, GameCube-like situation where they're going to come out right on top of each other.
I agree.
And we don't know the pricing of the other SKUs. We know that the base SKU without the eye costs $400. So for more, of course, on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and all things next gen, you're going to want to keep it tuned to IGN.